We'll go ahead and call the meeting to order. And the first item on the agenda is that for Scott to go over protocol for Zoom meetings. So we'll turn that part over to Scott.
Good evening. My name is Scott Wagner. I'm the Aviation Airport Manager, and welcome to the February 2nd meeting of the Aviation Advisory Board. I've just got a few announcements as we go into our virtual meeting tonight. This meeting is being recorded and broadcast on the city's YouTube channel and public access cable channel 25. During the meeting, you are not participating. If you could please mute yourself by clicking on the microphone icon found on the lower left-hand side of the Zoom menu next to the video icon. When you are muted, a red line will appear over the icon. Muting your microphone during the meeting will make it easier for everyone to hear. You just have to remember to unmute if and when you want to speak. Commissioners and staff, please remember to state your name and title each time you speak. When a motion is made, the chair will call on the commissioners individually to provide their vote, then announce whether the motion is carried and the count of the vote. When the chair calls for in-person public comment, individuals should indicate that they wish to speak. The staff that are present in the commission chambers will direct you to the podium. Please state your name before speaking, and comments will be limited to 3 minutes. Individuals participating via the Zoom should either use the raise hand function on the Zoom, or I think we've got a small enough group where you can probably just raise your hand and we'll get you recognized. Individuals will be called upon by name in the order they appear. When you're called upon, please unmute and state your name, and this is for public comment, and comments will be limited to 3 minutes. And with that, I'll turn it back over to our chair tonight. Again, I just want to welcome everyone. It seems like Groundhog Day. Well, wait, it is Groundhog Day. We're back at Zoom again, and maybe one of these days we'll be in person. But thank you all for joining us tonight, and I'll turn it over to our chair.
Okay. First item on the agenda is doing a roll call. Richard Haig here. Clancy Maloney.
Here.
Tiffany Hall.
Here.
Dan Bourne.
Here.
David Hayab.
Here.
Who am I forgetting? Jim Laster.
Here.
And Chris Coleman. So Chris has not joined us yet, so we'll get moving. The first item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes from our last meeting. And if everybody's had a chance to review those minutes, are there any changes that anyone would like to see in those minutes?
Yes. This is Clancy Maloney, board member. Richard, I apologize to you if under agenda items C3 for the last meeting, it says that Richard Haig and Tiffany Hall volunteered to serve on the planning committee. If you volunteered, I didn't know about it. It was Scott and Tiffany, and I've been excluding you. So tell me if you want to be on it, I'll welcome you. But otherwise, we need to change that to Scott.
Well, at this point, I definitely want to volunteer to assist during it, but I think this late in the game, I might throw a wrench in the works by jumping into the committee now.
But in case, that's the only change I found.
Okay, so I will scratch that. So you got it. Anyone else? Okay, so I can take a motion to approve the minutes with the correction of 3C, removing my name from the committee list. And if I have a motion to approve the minutes with that.
Clancy Maloney, board member, so move.
Okay. Moved by Clancy, seconded.
David Head, board member, second.
David, second by David Heeb. All in favor? Richard Haig, aye. Clancy Maloney.
Aye.
Tiffany Hall.
Aye.
Dan Bourne.
Aye.
David Hayden.
Aye.
Jim Laster. So passes 6-0. Okay, I'd like to actually next let's take public comment before we move to other agenda items. Is there any public that wishes to say anything at this time? Okay, with no public comment, I would like to move, I'd like to rearrange the agenda just a little bit to, since Peggy Johnson's joined us with United Way, and just move her presentation up to the pecking order so she doesn't have to necessarily sit through the rest of our business. So get her broken free as early as she wants. So Peggy, the floor is yours if you would like to take it. And if you would state your full name as you begin to speak.
Yes, thank you, Richard. I'm Peggy Johnson, interim CEO of United Way. And for those that don't know, United Way is an organization that provides resources and builds partnerships with nonprofit agencies to find funding and add capacity to them so that we can help our vulnerable population. But what we're looking for is a fundraising event at the airport this fall, and not only fundraising, but an awareness event. And being a pilot, as I am, although not current, I also love the idea of showcasing our airport. You guys are doing a great job with that airport. I'm totally impressed. So I think it can be beneficial to you as well. So the event we're looking at, we're shooting for August 27th. That is a Saturday. And for the day portion of that event, we would showcase some airplanes where people can come and ooh and ah and look at them and be fascinated. We would also pre-sell some tickets for charity rides. I have already reached out to Sherry Thompson with the 99s, and they're very much interested in participating. She's taking that to her board. We also would have food trucks, and we're going to coordinate transportation from the Tanger Mall because we understand we don't have sufficient parking for a larger event. But with talking to Rick, we found out we probably could coordinate some parking for VIP donors, and there may be a place that we have parking for our volunteers. So the people we're kind of thinking that would come to that event would be residents of Douglas County, our United Way supporters, our nonprofit partner agencies that we support. Of course, we'd invite our community and county leaders. And certainly I wouldn't be surprised there's people outside of Douglas County that come to the event. For the evening event, we're looking at, and the timing on that one, we're thinking 10 to 2, 10 to 3. The evening event would be a dinner for our top donors, our business partners, our nonprofit executives, and our community leaders. That is going to be in the Eurotech hangar. Chad Decker has been very gracious to offer his hangar free of charge to us. He would move his helicopters out so we'd have use of it for that evening. We anticipate somewhere around 5:30 to 8. Of course, we would set up, we would clean up, we'd knock everything down. So we don't want to add work to your schedules, that's for sure. Now you're thinking volunteers. Well, United Way has a very coordinated and organized volunteer center with our Roger Hill Volunteer Center. I don't know if many of you know this, but we provided the 1,700 volunteers for the Douglas County Health Department's COVID vaccination sites. They provided over 11,000 man hours. So we know a little bit about getting volunteers organized for an event. And of course, coordinating with Rick, I'm sure we can do that very smoothly. We also want to think about a way that we can benefit both of us. We want to make it easy on the airport. When we first visited with Rick and Scott, we talked about doing a hot air balloon event. And of course, Rick told us, well, they'd have to close down one runway. Well, we tabled that right away because we do not want to make this difficult for the airport. We will coordinate and work with Rick. He's been very helpful. Talked about some events you've had in the past, so we will utilize him and and lean on him heavily. Now, I'm not asking for anything from you. All I'm asking is your approval for this event so we can move forward. So I'd open it up for questions, comments, or suggestions.
Any comments from public or board members?
Yeah, this is Dan Bourne, board member. I think it's a great idea. I think it could be helpful for the airport, the community, for United Way. One thing I do wonder is the parking. Could we have enough parking? How many are anticipated to come to this? Would there be enough parking to do like with the Kansas Air Classic to park people on the grass there west of the hangars? Or is there going to be more of a crowd than that?
That's a great question. And I'll rely upon Rick for this. It sounds like when you pre-sell the tickets for the charity rides, that drums up quite a bit of interest. So the day event may draw a larger number of people. We did talk about we could park some in the grass. The day event, you know, I'm guessing it's our first year doing this, and lots of times the first year of an event, and I should talk to Tiffany Hall about this because you want to talk about an event planner extraordinaire. She's the one. But, you know, if we got 300, 400, 500 people for the day event, I would be very happy. The evening event, the dinner event, I'm guessing that will be more like 100, 150. If it was 200, I would love it, but I don't anticipate that may be the number. So I'd like to say we could fit them all there on site. Rick, what are your thoughts on that? You know the parking better than me.
Thank you, Peggy. Rick Bryant, airport analyst. Dan, to answer your question, when we have held previous open houses at the airport on a Saturday, such as what Peggy's proposing, we have had several thousand people. And so we have talked about using the Tanger Outlet Mall, and then United Way would have make arrangements for a shuttle bus, and then they would have a continuous running loop all day long for the public event. When Eurotech opens up their hangar, Chad intends to bring his helicopters across the street to the big grassy area, which he now has under a ground lease, which Scott will talk about later. So we can't really use that site. For volunteers, some VIP parking, I anticipate we would utilize the grass area west of T Hangar Block A, like we did for the air tour for volunteer parking. And then the rest of the airport, we'll work with the business owners out there to see what they need for accommodations with their clientele and stuff on Saturday. But we're pretty much going to try and shut down people just driving up Airport Road and trying to find a place to park. Hopefully that answers or gives you a little feel for what we're talking about.
Nancy Maloney, board member. How are you going to manage traffic into and out of the airport? Are the city police going to help do that if you're anticipating that many people, Rick?
I think Rick had talked about, you know, getting several different groups to help us with that. Certainly we'd talk with the city police, but civil patrol, a variety of different options. And again, I will rely upon Rick to help give us guidance there. But again, we want to make this very smooth and very easy for the airport.
Classy Rick again. We'll probably go with a similar color coding hang tag like we had for the air tour event. And then Civil Air Patrol is eager to help out and do another public event like this. So we'll probably lean on them as opposed to Lawrence PD. But that's not to say that, you know, we're going to encourage them to come out on a regular basis and patrol. Right now, everything's in fluid state, and Peggy's fortunate. She's got a great operations assistant there at the United Way who has done large events also. So the two of us are chatting all the time on how to make this go smoothly. And but if you look at the air tour event we had last September, and we tried to keep that quiet, but the newspaper accounts and stuff brought out people, and we had more than we anticipated, and we handled that pretty well. But we're going to have a much larger crowd for this. And the charity rides, the day we did this back in '09 for Make-A-Wish, and one of our prior board members, his daughter was a sorority girl at, I think it was Chi-O, up on KU campus, and they wanted to do a public fundraising event. So that's how we teamed up to do Wings for a Wish. And we sold $20,000 worth of tickets between the sorority and walk-ins that day at the airport. So our volunteer pilots ran continuously from starting about 9:30 in the morning till 3 in the afternoon. I think we only had about 6. So I have encouraged Peggy to try and get a few more, so the wear and tear of constant flying, wouldn't wear on the volunteer pilots as well. So hopefully that gives you a little better feel.
Yeah, another question too is, you'll recall for the air tour, we had a minor issue with enough handicap parking. What are we going to do to solve that problem?
Well, again, trying to keep in mind that we're not letting people drive up to the airport, because we really have a very limited number of handicap stalls, and we're trying to drive the public over to the Tanger Outlet Mall, and that'll be a crucial communications piece for United Way. And then they'll have to use a handicap transit bus to get people over there. Again, I'm not going to make any definitive statements. It's, your question is valid. Those are things that have to be worked through the process. And we're just in the very baby step stages with this.
I understand that, but I know that there are some people that just can't use buses also. I mean, we had an overflow need at the air tour, and that was a small event compared with this. And people will drive up to the hangar anticipating a place to park, and there simply weren't enough spaces the last time. So that may be something you need to consider in terms of cordoning off that area somehow or another for people who have their own capability and vans, because sometimes the city just doesn't, or the buses don't have that. So that's all I'm saying about that.
Yes, I understand.
Clancy, that really is a good point. When you think of United Way and you think of the population we serve, handicap is certainly a very big part of that. So I appreciate you bringing that to our attention, and that we will address that.
Richard Haig and Peggy, my hat's off to all the volunteers that were out at the fairgrounds. That was just phenomenal how that flowed out there. It was really incredible, and appreciate all their hard work and getting the community moving again back in the day. That was awesome. The one question I have is, Rick, are you going to be a big part of the planning process for this?
You've seen my other boss just put her thumbs up. I will be a resource to the extent that they need me to make this go smooth, and then be on site the day of the event we'll do whatever we need to do to make this a safe and fun and hopefully profitable event for United Way. And if we do a good job, sadly, I hear they want to come back year after year.
That could be a great open house for the airport that way. The one question I have, Rick, that you'd be familiar with, and Peggy, as a pilot, you might know, when we did this back in '09, we had to have a list and get approval of pilots through the FAA. Is that something that you guys are going to follow the FAA guidelines and get everybody vetted that way? Is that?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
I've already provided Peggy and her assistant, as Mandy, the operations director. They already have the guidelines from the FAA, so they know when they talk with Sherry and the 99s what the criteria is, and then we will vet those insurance and certificates and all that stuff, just like we did back in '09.
Okay, sounds great.
Everything will be by the book.
Super. I remember that was a significant list of who's who of pilots in the area and from around the state. It was a pretty good turnout.
Yes, it was. We were pretty fortunate, and Gary Fish was the board member that we'll put the credit on his shoulders because he's the one that did all the hard work and vetted the pilots and kept all the records. And they were not only Lawrence pilots, but they were from all around the state. He pulled in a lot of chips to make this work, and it worked quite well.
It really did. It was phenomenal. Okay, so as the board, I guess I should say, is there any more public comment on the issue? Okay. The board's position is to recommend that the city authorize staff to work with Peggy and the United Way to promote this event and get this event moving. So I guess we need a motion to approve the city staff to work with United Way and Peggy to get this event going.
Paul, I make that motion.
Okay. Motion by Tiffany. I say here a second.
Jim Lasser, Aviation Board. I would second that.
And seconded by Jim. So all in favor, I'll go down the roll call. Richard Haig, aye. Clancy?
Aye.
Tiffany?
Aye.
Dan?
Aye.
David?
Aye.
Jim?
Aye.
Okay, so it passes 6-0. Peggy, thank you. Look forward to working with you on that. That sounds pretty exciting.
Thank you, Richard, and everyone. We will do an event that will make you proud. And I'm just going to tell you, Tiffany, I'm going to call you because you are a wonderful planner of events, and see if we can get some chamber volunteers involved. Thanks to everything you do. You guys are doing a great job out at the airport.
Yeah. Thank you, Peggy. Over on.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I didn't hear anything about the specific date when we're planning this. Has a date been put on? That ought to be in the minutes, I think.
August 27th. Did you hear that, Ron? August 27th? Okay.
Just
All
wanted to
right.
make sure it went into the minutes, that's all.
Okay, you got it. All right, so we'll get back to the agenda items. And Scott, do you want to talk about the ACIP?
Yes, Scott Wagner, airport manager. We've got a few items to get through tonight, so I know we've already used about a half an hour of our meeting time, so I'll try to be as succinct as possible, but be cognizant of everyone's time tonight. So the first regular agenda item is the 5-year airport CIP. If you have that agenda document pulled up in front of you, or I can share it or ask Kurt to put it up if
Can you
needed.
put that document up? Let me show you which one. The 1 through 5?
Yes, Scott, share that.
Okay.
Okay, let me get to that real quick. Can everyone see that?
It's the agenda yet?
Yeah, let me scroll to that item real quick.
Oh, you got that?
Okay. Can everyone see that first memo there regarding the airport CIP program? Great. Okay, so we'll just kind of quickly go through this memo. It's similar to what's been on your agenda in the past. Each year, the airport has to submit updated CIP project data sheets to the FAA, and this year those updates were due January 14th. We had Garver assist us in updating kind of the current CIP data sheets that we had previously submitted, and they've also prepared some new projects that we've inputted into the CIP program as well. So I'll kind of go over and highlight some of those. The great thing about having Garver assist us was that they were out at our airport in December of this year because they had the statewide KDOT contract for airport evaluation and inspection of pavement conditions at all Kansas airports. So they had fresh data from our airport, and they were super helpful in turning around that data from the end of December to the submission deadline of January 14th. So at the top of that chart is kind of the 5-year list of projects that the board approved February 3rd of last year. The Apron Rehab project, the rehab of Taxiway A, and the rehab of Roadway 119. So the couple items that Garver worked with us in terms of creating some CIP data sheets for so that we can hopefully get some FAA funding for. The first two items is sanitary sewer work that's needed at the airport. The first one, they helped us create a data sheet for a sanitary sewer study. And this would be just for an engineering study of what is needed to build out the sanitary sewer infrastructure at the airport. Some of you may be familiar with the airport sanitary sewer system. Several of the buildings on the east side of the airport are connected to a holding tank that was built a few years ago on the airport property. But the buildings on the west side of the airport are currently not part of a sanitary sewer system and are served by septic systems. So that's an area of the airport that's really needed. And to understand what exactly we need to do, we need to get an engineering study to create the project plans that would help us build out the infrastructure. The second data sheet that they created was what their kind of rough guesstimates would be to build out and connect the airport sanitary sewer system to the rest of the city system. And their estimated cost at this time is $2.233 million. So this, from staff's perspective, we need to find a funding stream for this because at some point as the airport grows, it's going to become an issue. Right now, we have this holding tank out at the airport for the buildings that are connected to the sewer system. And it's not, that holding tank is not connected to the rest of the city's infrastructure. So it has to get pumped when it gets full. And, the ongoing costs of having that done add up. And, at some point, the airport just really needs, it really must be connected to the city system. So finding some funding to push forward that project is important. Hopefully we can get some FAA funds, but I'm also working with city staff to make sure that it's on the city's CIP list. So for some of the new members, it gets a little confusing. As a new airport manager, it was confusing for me at times too, because we talk about a lot of different lists. So the city has our own CIP program. We have our own projects that we fund each year with either general fund dollars or utility dollars or bonded projects through the city's CIP list. So I want to make sure that that project is also on the city's list as we try to get this funded. A couple other projects that I worked with Garver on as they again examined our airport and as we looked at aerial and drone images that they shot. Airport Road, as you guys know, as you drive down it, it's really in a condition that it needs improvement. And as we've moved to a regional airport status, it was initially constructed to be just a basic asphalt road with open ditching really as drainage. And it's really time, to improve Airport Road. So they created a CIP data sheet that we did submit to FAA for possible funding of improvement of Airport Road, and that would improve the look and entrance to our airport. The other new project that they created a data sheet on is the Hetrick, what I would call the Hetrick taxi lane. As you guys have known, we've been working with Hetrick as they work to build their second hangar on Lot 2. The city will be responsible for construction of that taxi lane to to get to the hangar. The estimated cost of that project at this time is $264,000. We are budgeting city funds to get that done. But if we could get some FAA funding for that project, then that would free up city funds to work on other things at the airport. So that's why I encouraged Garver to help us get that data sheet together for that particular project. So the recommended 5-year airport CIP list is below, and we can just kind of quickly go through it. Rehab of taxiway A, we have that budgeted for this year in terms of having Garver create the engineering plans for that project. I don't believe we'll get FAA funding for that this year, but I would expect it hopefully in 2023. We did put it in for funding this year. That hangar taxi lane phase 1, which I just talked about. Again, later in my report, I'll talk about some new funding that came out of the bipartisan infrastructure legislation, where the Lawrence Airport is eligible for $295,000 annually. You know, that project there would match up nicely with that funding source. I'm still waiting on FAA guidelines for how we can access that fund, but it's kind of my understanding that it will be accessed in the traditional way of submitting an airport CIP project. The T-Hangar taxi lane project, I would expect funding for next year, and we're going to move design of that project. We've got Garver under contract to get that design this year. The Apron Rehab project, I would hope to get funding for next fiscal year. This is, again, these are FAA fiscal years for next year. And then we also work with Garver to update the master plan CIP data sheet. We pulled that off of kind of the 5-year plan last year, but with all the growth and development that's occurring at the airport, we really think we need to update that master plan. It's going on 10 years old now, and we need a roadmap for the future. You know, FAA is probably reluctant to perhaps fund a master plan versus some of the asphalt improvements and asks that we have on our list, but it doesn't hurt to ask, in my opinion. And if we can push that up and hopefully get some funding for that, that would be great. And then the other projects you see listed. Yeah, so with that, I'll answer any questions you guys have about those changes and about the updated CIP project list. And the action we're asking for tonight is to approve that CIP list, and we'll get this on a city commission agenda for approval.
This is Richard Haig. I do like the list and the order that it's presented. One question I have, Scott, is reaching back is when we did the sewer system upgrade at the airport to put that tank in, and quite a challenge it ended up being because of the water table out there. But was the study then done for a forced main all the way back to the North Lawrence pump station, that the plans and the acquisition of property were already done at that time? Because they originally were going to put the forced main in, but there wasn't enough volume to go ahead and do that. So they were going to wait until the volume got up high enough, which we may be at that point now, in order to put that main through. And is that study available for reflection or for us to look at, or maybe even for Garver to look at, and maybe help ease some of the costs of that, the new study, and just amend the old one and bring it up to date to where things are now?
Yeah, this is Scott Wagner, airport manager. That's correct, Richard. That's a good point. I was involved a little bit with that project when it had occurred. And for sure, I will dig up that old engineering study and make sure Garver has that. Certainly it would need to be updated, but I think that's why they're estimating the cost of the study is fairly minimal in terms of engineering work, because they knew we had the core study from, gosh, it's probably going on 10 years ago now when we put that holding tank out there.
And is the one other question is Richard Haig, Chair. The taxiway to the second proposed hangar for Hetrick, is the taxiway what's holding up the project there? Or is there just other things that are just slowing it down from being developed?
This is Scott Wagner, Airport Manager. No, the city will be ready to bid that project here anytime. Garver has reviewed the project plans. They've gotten their comments back to Land Plan Engineering, Hetrick's engineering firm for that project. We have the, I think later on, I've showed you what we have budgeted for that project right now going into 2022. So we're ready to move really as soon as Hetrick is on that project.
Awesome. That's great to hear. Thank you. Any other questions or comments about the CIP? Okay, I'll take a motion to approve the CIP budget as it's been presented, if someone feels so moved.
Clancy Maloney, board member, I so move.
Do you hear a second?
David Hebb, board member, second.
Who was the second?
David Hebb, board member,
Okay,
second.
David Hebb. Okay. So it's been moved and seconded. So those in favor, Richard Haig, Chair, aye. Tiffany Hall,
Aye.
Clancy Maloney,
Aye.
Dan Bourne,
Aye.
David Habe,
Aye.
and Jim Laster.
Aye.
All right, so it passes 6-0. The next on the agenda is to receive the airport manager's report. Scott?
Scott Wagner, Airport Manager. Actually, Richard, we've got a budget item. As
Did
item
I miss
number
one?
2. Yeah, can you all see that?
Oh,
Maybe
okay.
you can screen share again.
So the first one was to
Was the
approve the
CIP.
5-year capital. And
Right.
this is to approve the longer term CIP.
No, the second memo is some budget adjustments that we're going through right now. I don't know if you guys can see my screen. Kurt, do I need to share again?
Yes, you do.
That was the other adjustment.
Okay, so I'll go through this memo. I'll try to keep it short. So last year we went through a few different budget adjustments. The funding for the taxi lane that we just talked about to get to the second Hetrick hangar, this was an unbudgeted item. Last year we were anticipating the cost would be $200,000. However, again, with Garver's kind of expertise, we've revised that budget amount to $285,000. And that budget adjustment was approved by the City Commission in the fourth quarter of 2021. We moved $85,000 from the taxiway A rehab, as that project wasn't funded yet in 2021, to this taxi lane project. So that's just kind of an update. The rehab of taxiway A, which again is a priority project given the new updated data sheets from Garver. We have budgeted in the city's budget $180,000 this year, so that will help us with the local match for that project, and we'll get Garver under contract to design that work this year. The rehab of the T-Hangar taxi lanes we've been talking about. We did receive some KIP grants in 2021 for that project. Again, though, Garver believes that the grant awards we received are insufficient to really do the work that's needed. So what we're trying to do in this year's budget is to get Garver at least under contract to get that project designed. So the proposal is to use $70,000 from the Apron Rehab project that we won't get FAA funding for this year. So I'm proposing that we use some of that budget that we have for this year for the Apron Rehab project to move into design work of the T-Hangar taxi lane project, and then use some funds from our ARPA grant to get Garver under contract for design, so that we'll be ready to go when we either hopefully have some additional KAIP funds for this project or some FAA funds for this project. So either way, we'll be ready to go if we can approve these budget changes tonight and get Garver under contract for doing that design work. And finally, so we have $120,000 in the Apron Rehab project. Again, that we won't get FAA funding for that this year. We would have received that notice. So staff is recommending we move that city kind of local share match, budget that in 2023 and use this year's budget of $120,000 for a couple of urgent needs. Again, one is shifting $70,000 to the T-Hangar taxi lane project. And then in recent weeks, and talking with Lauren Stone, our facilities manager out at the airport, we've really have some doubts as to how much longer the pumps at the fuel farm are really going to hold out. And once I found that out, and found out that we didn't have any funds budgeted for fuel pump replacement, that kind of become my top priority project, because we can't have our fuel pumps go out at the airport. That would be a catastrophe. So I'm proposing that we move at least $50,000 from, again, the Apron Rehab project into a fuel pump replacement this year. And we're currently getting quotes from vendors to get that done. So that's kind of the gist of the budget changes. The next section just kind of reviews some of the federal funding grants that we received in 2021. And the last item just kind of summarizes some of the account line item details. So if we get the support of the advisory board tonight on these budget changes, I'll get this measure before the city commission for final approval on the budget changes, and I'll be happy to answer any questions.
I guess this is Richard Haig, Chair. So this CIP change is the one we approved is for long term, and this is approving changes to the immediate one to relocate the funds just for those projects. Is that correct?
Scott Wagner, Airport Manager.
Because
kind of, Richard, you approved the submission of a few changes to the 5-year CIP plan. We added a couple more projects to the 5-year plan, including the master plan update. But this request here is to really move that amount that we have budgeted this year, $120,000 in the Apron Rehab project, shift those funds around. We're going to shift $70,000 for design work of the T-Hangar taxi lane project to make sure that we've got that project designed, ready to go, and then shift the other $50,000, so 70 plus 50 equals 120, into replacing the fuel pumps at the fuel farm this year, because that needs to be done. Lauren indicates that he was not able to source some needed parts. He was kind of able to keep things running last year, but those pumps really are at the end of their lifespan and could fail, honestly, anytime.
Yeah. Okay, so the action, is there any discussion by public or board members on the issue?
Yeah, this is Dan Bourne, board member. And I had a question about the T-Hangar taxi lanes. The money's been received for that already, right? And so there's no timeline on when it has to be spent. We just got it at the bank, more or less.
Scott Wagner, Airport Manager. We've received the grant documents from the state of Kansas, Richard. Those have been executed. We have 4 years in which to draw down those funds. So that's a program that we get reimbursed for. So, but we didn't get reimbursed for any design costs. So right now, we're attempting to cobble together a budget, as I've kind of presented here, to at least get Garver under design for that project. So we're awarded a couple smaller KIP grants in 2021. And in last fall, I think I put it on our November meeting, if you recall, we asked for an additional $757,000 from KIP to do the job right, as Garver had prepared some updated estimates. So if we get that additional KIP funding, Dan will be ready to go this spring. Garver will have the plans done and we'll be off and running with that project.
I think that's one that the engineering side is going to be pretty fun, because their engineering for the taxi lane repairs by the T hangars is also to help with drainage and things like that at the same time. So,
Scott Wagner, airport manager. Yes, that's correct. And that was one of the key things, as Dan may remember, that came out of the interviews for engineering firms for the airport. They pointed out to us during that interview process that they didn't think that our KIP funding was sufficient to address the drainage issues that we're seeing outside of T Hangar A, I believe.
Hey, Scott, Lloyd Hetrick with the FBO. Reading this, is it my understanding from what you're reading and saying, it sounds like then the electric fence gates are going to be just basically tabled. We're taking that money for now. Do we have any idea when the gates would be replaced or installed?
Scott Wagner, airport manager. No, that's not correct. On my next report, I'll give you my airport manager's report. We've got the gate project under contract, and that'll get started here in the next few weeks.
Sorry, thank you.
Any other questions for Scott on the reallocation of the funds? So I'll accept a motion to approve the revised airport budget, CIP and maintenance plan changes as outlined by staff. Do I hear a motion?
Board members, so moved.
Is that Scott? Is that Dan Bourne that made the motion?
Correct.
Okay. Moved by Dan. Do I hear a second?
Jim Lester, second.
Jim Laster, second. So those in favor, Richard Haig, aye. Grab my list so I don't forget anybody. Clancy Maloney.
Aye.
Tiffany Hall.
Aye.
Dan Bourne.
Aye.
David Hibb.
Aye.
Jim Laster. Jim.
Sorry, mute me. Aye.
So it passes 6-0. So now, without me jumping over anything, we'll go for the airport manager's report.
Scott Wagner, airport manager. I'll try to keep this brief since I know we got a couple more items. So things, again, as you've already heard, are hopping out at the airport, and I'll just briefly touch on the highlights of this report. I want to throw this date out there that the Kansas Association of Airports is meeting in June in Dodge City, Kansas. I do plan to attend, as that conference last year was most helpful for me in connecting with fellow airport managers and professionals and engineering firms in the business. And I am on the KA board right now. In December, kudos to Rick Bryan. He helped us update the required reporting of aircraft based at our airport. And that was the breakdown that we filed with FAA. We saw a growth in the number of aircraft based at Lawrence Regional. And if you have questions about that report, Rick can answer those. I mentioned a minute ago this allotment that was in the bipartisan infrastructure legislation passed earlier this year. So this was a line item out of that bill, and Lawrence will be getting $295,000 annually the next 5 years. Again, I'm still waiting on some guidance from FAA as to how we can access those funds. Again, I kind of think that it's going to be similar to our CIP process where we submit a project and FAA will approve it. But kind of my next steps is to probably meet with Garver and set up a meeting with FAA Central Region staff to push them on getting some of that guidance out, because we've got a lot of projects that we could utilize that funding for and get moving with them. I think I already reviewed that Garver was been of great help the last couple months since our last board meeting. They reviewed the project plans for the Hetrick taxi lane. They assisted us with the CIP data sheet updates, and they've also started to help us out with the Eurotech expansion plans. I think I already kind of covered the Hetrick project and where that stands by answering Richard's question earlier. The gate controller project, again, Lloyd, that project is under contract with a company out of Lenexa, Kansas, Jaeger Construction. The next step is to set a pre-construction meeting that should take place here in the next couple of weeks, and they will get started on that here shortly. The airport terminal project, as Lloyd is, I'm sure, aware of, has been underway for the last couple of weeks. BA Green was awarded that project to, again, build out a new ADA accessible bathrooms in kind of the canteen area where the water closet was. I think the last pictures I saw were that the walls for that bathroom were up, and BA Green was doing some tile work perhaps this week. They initially estimated that that would be a 3-month project, but I really expect them to probably get that wrapped up in the next couple of weeks. They're making great headway on that. Lloyd and I were discussing the heater project today, actually. The heaters in the maintenance hangar, they don't work, and we need to get those replaced. So I've been working with MSO staff to find really a funding source to get that done. We have done that. The city allocates funds annually through a larger maintenance program that we can draw upon funding to get those heater hangers in the maintenance hangar replaced. So I think we're awaiting some contract quotes for those heaters. And the last I heard that, the parts were kind of, and those replacement heaters were back ordered for a few weeks. And so I know Lloyd would probably like to have those in today on a cold day, but I think it's going to take a few more weeks before we get that done. But that is a project that we have found funding for, and it's going to get done. A project that we didn't have funding for was, and some of you may know that during that fly-in event, a sinkhole was discovered near the airport. It was actually my wife stepped in it. And that turned out to be a rather costly, unbudgeted project. But that project was able to cobble together some funds for, and R.D. Johnson got started this week on that. It's going to replace a drain that really runs from the west side of the terminal. It connects to some of the apron drains, and then leads over into another drain that's on the east side of the terminal and the access road through that gate on the east side. And R.D. Johnson is currently working on that project right now. The Eurotech project, not really much to report right now. I've been in constant communication with Chad Decker. He's working on some initial project plans for that. And I would expect him to have an architect and engineering firm under contract here shortly and move that project forward. So not a lot to report on that, but I want to keep that on our agenda because we've we've executed a 1-year lease with him, and I want to, make sure we keep rolling on that with him, and he's anxious to get started on that project as well. And that's it for my report tonight. Would be happy to answer any questions.
Have any questions for Scott?
Yeah, this is Ron Rennes speaking. A little question. There's been a major change with one of the lease holdings out at the airport, happens to be mine. I noticed that this must be a really big secret because it's never been on any of the city manager's reports. It's never been on any of the airport advisory board meetings. There's been an RFP issued. There's been many responses to that. There's been a finalist put on. Why is this such a big secret, Scott? Why hasn't this been on any of the airport managers' reports? Why hasn't it been on any of the airport advisory board meeting discussions? And I know at least one airport advisory board member didn't even know that somebody from the airport advisory board was on the analysis committee of that.
This is Scott Wagner, airport manager. Thank you, Ron, for your comments. I'd be happy to briefly speak about that. I don't have a report prepared tonight for the RFP that did go out on the hangar where you are located and the Lifestar facility is located on the west side of the airport. You are correct in that the city issued an RFP for use or reuse or sale of that hangar back in November of this year. Responses to that RFP were due December 21st, I believe. We received 5 responses from different entities. And then we had a review committee analyze and score those responses. We held interviews, I believe it was January 21st, with the top 2 candidates that scored highest in the review process. And after that interview stage, I crafted a memo based upon the committee's recommendation to the city manager's office. I've really been following the direction of MSO and the city manager's office, Ron, in terms of the process. I'd be happy to put a full report on our next Aviation Advisory Board agenda. For those of you that don't know, the lease that Ron has with the city expires in March of this year. We provided notice to Mr. Renz in September of this year that we weren't going to be renewing that lease and that we were going to be going through an RFP process. I would be happy to share any of those documents. In terms of the RFP with the board, I was really proud of the RFP document that staff worked on. Had a lot of assistance from Rick Bryant and MSO staff and our new purchasing manager on that document. We received a lot of great responses back, and I'm excited to work with the recommended firm that the committee has recommended to move forward with a new lease.
It's a good report, Scott. Thanks. Very accurate. Just interesting that it was such a big secret that nobody's ever heard of it. You didn't answer that question, why that was.
Scott Wagner, airport manager. It wasn't a secret. I was just, again, following the process. I'm new to this airport management business, following the process that I was directed from the city manager's office and MSO management.
Any other questions for Scott? Okay, let's move on to FBO report from Lloyd. Is Lloyd Hetrick, are you still with us? Your mic's muted, Lloyd. Lloyd, can you hear me? Your mic's muted.
Yeah, I'm sorry. There you go. That better?
Yep. That we can hear you now, Lloyd. Thank you.
High technology. Yeah, Lloyd Hetrick with the FBO. Scott, I guess I might follow up with one other question on the RSVP. Are we not, when will it become public? Who did get that? You said it's a recommendation to the city staff right now on who they recommend for that?
Scott Wagner, airport manager. I expect this item to be on a city commission agenda in the next couple of weeks.
At which time it'd be public knowledge then, I guess. Okay. Well, yeah, as far as the airport, I mean, the only thing I might report is I appreciate, Scott, you working with me on the heater issues. It's been going on for 3-4 years at least. Every year it's kind of like, well, there's no money in the budget. There's never any money in the budget. And we kind of just go with that every year and kind of survive. And it's gotten to a point now where we're there. And obviously we can be 6 weeks away and winter's over before it's done. But at least I think there's light at the end of the tunnel right now. If we can just keep half of those heaters running, maybe. Towards the game day last Saturday, I don't know if anybody was out at the airport. It was the ramp was packed. We had 20-some aircraft that flew in for the Kentucky game. I suspect this Baylor game with the weather due to change here in the next couple of days. We got 5 or 6, I guess, right now. One of them a Global Express, one of the big ones coming in. I suspect we'll get a full crowd for that game as well with the weather and everything. Other than that, I don't know that I got anything, it'd be nice when the terminal gets done. It's awful noisy and dusty and everything, but it'd be a nice improvement when we get it done. So, yeah.
Lloyd, this is Richard Haig, Chair. How many seats is the Global Express that you have coming in?
How many?
How big an aircraft is that you expect coming in?
You're talking about seating configuration?
Correct.
Well, that's going to depend on the interior, obviously, but I'd be surprised it's not in that 15 seat category. Yeah, okay. It'd be equivalent to a G5 or even a Falcon 900. Okay. Depending on how the seating configured, yeah. So we had a challenge, not a Challenger. We had another Global in 2 weeks ago, I believe it was, and we actually was able to put it in our hangar for overnight. Maybe it was 3 weeks ago. One of the games they came in and we put it in the hangar for that game. So yeah,
it fit in the new hangar.
It does.
Just right.
Yeah. Well, we built it for that. It takes better than half the hangar there, so we got to move some of our planes. On occasion, we'll put ours outside to kind of accommodate. But yeah. So.
Awesome. Thank you, Lloyd.
Yeah.
Okay. We've already done the United Way committee, so if we could do the update from Clancy on the Air Race Classic.
Sure. We've met a couple of times. The board that I have right now, which is Scott, Tiffany, and Tammy Willits. Tammy's in the process of recruiting volunteers, and right now Sarah Thompson is going to handle the ramp management. And I want to encourage anybody who wants to assist. It's going to be a 4-day affair, so we're going to need plenty of people out at the airport. Day one is June 21st. We need folks to help set up, and probably from about 3 p.m. on until sunset, in case some of the faster aircraft come through, and then dawn to sunset for the next 2 days, and probably until mid-afternoon on the 24th. So if any of you guys are interested in helping out, we'd sure appreciate it. Right now, Northeast Kansas is up and running, I believe, on most of it. And so far, I think Tammy told me yesterday that she has about 10 solid people signed up, and we got a couple more today, Mac Boatwright and somebody whose name I didn't write down. So we're looking pretty good at the moment. Tiffany's been working with the Town Place Suites downtown. That'll be our primary hotel. Scott, I think, was going to follow up on one other and see what was going on with that. And we're looking for folks to help with ramp drive some buses back and forth if we do a round robin to the hotels, and plenty of timers because we'll need people all day those days to help out. So anybody's interested, let Tammy know, and we'll be setting up a schedule pretty soon so that you can decide when you want to help.
Thank you. Thank you, Clancy. Okay, the youth aviation camp update. I've been kind of tied up and not diving into that as much as I should. I did finally reach out and talk with Dwayne Peterson, and he's all on board and really looking forward to helping us with it. I did talk to Derek just a little bit about the city's involvement there. So we do need to try and get things coordinated fairly quickly to get that pulled off this year, because that's just a few months away as well. So Rick, have you been doing any of the other stuff? Rick, are you with us? You're
Oh
muted.
yeah, I don't get to leave until you guys leave.
Okay.
Yeah, to answer your question, no, because we needed to have this conversation with the board tonight about a date, and then start working backwards. And then Dwayne and I'll start working on the logistics and, you know, classroom space and all that other good stuff that we talked about the other day. So
Okay.
we're ready to roll as soon as we get a date and it can start moving forward.
Okay. Now, Rick, does the board need to vote on a date, or is that something that the committee, when we get together, can set the date?
Well, you're the board chair, sir, so I will defer to you. I think if we're going to be consistent with our minutes, like, you know, Ron indicated earlier with Peggy, that you know, maybe a first choice and a second choice might be appropriate, so that folks that may want to help out, may know how to plan schedules, can, you know, make that reservation for the online enrollment and stuff, and we can get going, get our body counts going.
Okay. Well, the traditional weekend that we did the last few years of the camp was the first Saturday after KU graduation. And I have to get a calendar out to see. David, do you happen to know when the date of KU's graduation?
I can look it up real quick and let you know.
Okay.
It's May 15th.
Okay.
There you go.
So the weekend after that would be Saturday, the 28th, which is...
It would be the Saturday, the 21st.
There we go.
Commencement day is on a Sunday, the 15th.
Okay.
So that traditional Saturday would be the 21st, and yeah, the 28th is Memorial Day weekend.
And when is Mother's Day? You know?
I think it's the 8th. It's like the second Sunday of May. I don't know. I never get any presents on that day.
Yeah. You only mark the ones that you get presents on? Well, how about we tentatively set the date for the 21st of May then? Would that conflict within?
It's a board decision.
Okay.
The only caveat I throw out is that we unfortunately lost 90 days worth of planning opportunities and stuff. So we may be pushing it a little bit to get to the 21st. So other than that, the board just needs to have that healthy discussion about what looks good for them, and make sure that we have a successful event. And then from there, Dwayne and I will get started on our end, and then your recruitment of instructors and pilots and stuff is all that's left to fill the ticket out.
Well, actually, I think the biggest one's going to be the logistics at the airport of where we're going to have the classes and spread it out, because I think our normal spacing is changed with the development at the airport. So we may have to work with some of the airport tenants, or even talk with KU about maybe using some spaces in their offices as well.
Well, and then that's true. And that's what we talked about the other day, is that I have the ability to go out and recruit those spaces, because that's my job, and we can get that taken care of. And then Dwayne will be able to backfill in with whatever needs Parks and Rec can provide, and then we'll be off and running.
Okay.
This is Dan Bourne, board member. It sounds like the main, or one of the main concerns here is to give you guys enough time to do the proper planning. And so I guess the question is, the pressing question is May 21st enough time to do that, or do you need more time?
I truly believe that's plenty of time to get this put together. We'd have to, I would say pending talking with Derek and Dwayne with Parks and Rec, getting it set up, because with them getting it out to the through the Parks and Rec network to let everybody know when it is going to be the bigger challenge. So I would say we set the date as May 21st, pending clearance with Dwayne and Derek that'll work in their schedule. Dwayne Peterson and Derek Rogers. Does that sound good to everyone? So how would we take a motion to set the date for the youth aviation camp for the May 21st, pending approval through Parks and Rec?
Jim, board member, I'd motion that.
Okay. Motion by Jim. Do your second?
Dan Bourne, board member, I second it.
Okay. Motion by Jim Lasser, seconded by Dan Bourne. And so get my roll call here. Richard Haig, aye. Grab him. There you go. Clancy Maloney.
Aye.
Tiffany Hall.
Aye.
Dan Bourne.
Aye.
David Habe.
Aye.
And Jim Laster. Jim, it didn't come through.
Aye.
Aye. So passes 6-0. So we'll have the tentative date for the youth aviation camp of May 21st. All right, with that, the next advisory board meeting is set for May 4th. And is there any other discussion before I take motion to or move to adjourn? Rick Bryant is raising his hand.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Two quick items of note. One, tomorrow there's going to be emails sent out to our T-Hangar tenants and all of our business partners out at the airport to officially announce that we are now known as the Lawrence Regional Airport. And thank you for your direction back, I don't know, seems like eons ago, but we started this process back in 2020 to request the FAA to make the name change, and then we gave them a little nudge middle of last year. But it has quietly worked through the system. We weren't even notified, but in December, all the charts, documents, protocols, everything now says Lawrence Regional Airport. So Scott and I just want to say thank you to the board for helping us get that nudge going. And it's consistent with FAA policy. We're one of 13 regional airports in Kansas, and puts us on a bigger stage, and means we got to act like big guys now and ladies, and show the world that we're capable of handling it. The second item is I received a communication over the weekend from Sue Hack. She's the Director of Leadership Lawrence. And thanks to COVID, we have not been able to host Leadership Lawrence class out at the airport the last 2 years. So she was asking if it's possible that we can coordinate the volunteer flights for students for this year's class, and then any stragglers from 2020 and 2021 that may want to come out. So we're looking at maybe, I don't know, between 40 and 50 passengers. And that's a Friday morning, weather permitting, of course. And so I turn this back over to Mr. Chairman, and he can discuss with the board if it's something that you wish to do. We've done this for literally decades in hosting this class, and it's a good promotion for the airport. With COVID, obviously, we cut back for safety reasons, both with Leadership Lawrence and for the airport, but they seem to be willing to fly. So we'll have to mask up and take care of them if we want to go that way. But I defer to the board to have a discussion and some direction so I can get back and let her know what the answer is.
What Friday is that, Rick?
April 29th.
Okay. Now, is that a board function, or is that we just need to locate pilots function to volunteer to fly those? Because is Leadership Lawrence an independent group?
Well, it's a subset of the Chamber of Commerce, and it's a leadership development class that meets for multiple times each year. But we have hosted a singular event out here to talk about the airport, why it's important to the community, and you have led that discussion for a number of years. And then we take them on a complimentary aerial tour of the city and county so that they can get a different perspective after weeks in the classroom of what it looks like from the sky. So it's a great promo for the airport. Again, it's one of those situations where we have people that have never been out to our airport. And so that leads to, you know, conversations and maybe a future pilot or somebody knows somebody that wants to hangar a plane here, but it's, you know, don't know if the timing is good. Don't know what the weather will be like, you know, but you have talked, and I have talked, and so it's just a matter of does the board want to do that, and then we have to, you know, find 6 or 7 pilots and planes to, you know, want to fly that large a group out.
Exactly. Well, that's what I was trying to remember whether we voted on that before as a board function through an official action, or if we just volunteered to do that and start looking for and asking for volunteer pilots, because most of the pilots that we've had in the past have not been board members. We've had 1 or 2 that have been, and Hetrick has stepped up with some aircraft and helped us out with that. So,
you know, I first of all, my memory is a little foggy because it's been 2 years ago since we, you know, have had to deal with this. I'm not sure if we've ever really taken a vote and had it as a board function, but it might not be a bad idea to stick it into the minutes that this discussion was held and that the advisory board was in favor or opposed or neutral to getting involved, and then we could, you know, just go out and recruit pilots like we have in the past.
Okay.
This is Dan Bourne, board member. I don't recall ever voting on this before, but I think it's a good idea. I mean, for what it's worth.
Well, this is Rick again. I wanted to bring it up tonight so that the board at least was aware of the interest from Leadership Lawrence, because they obviously put a value on it, and so didn't want to take off and go on a direction different from what the board may or may not want to do. So that's why I brought it up tonight.
Well, the date. Okay, sorry, Dan, go ahead.
This is Dan Bourne, board member. I move that we approve the Leadership Lawrence flights on whatever the date was.
It is April 29th.
April 29th, Friday morning.
Okay, they're here second.
I'd second that, Jim.
As motion by Dan Bourne, seconded by Jim Laster. And do the roll call vote. Richard Haig, aye. Clancy, Malone.
Aye.
Tiffany Hall.
Aye.
Dan Bourne.
Aye.
Jim Laster.
Aye.
David Hayden.
Aye.
Okay, passes 6-0. So we will now go and reach out and see if we can recruit some people to help us. In the past, we've had between 30 and 40 people, and we'll have to coordinate with Scott because they do sign waivers for liability waivers. So we'll have to work with city staff to get the liability waivers made up. And
actually, Richard, this is Rick again. The Chamber of Commerce has their own waiver that
Okay.
they have asked those participants to sign, so that
Okay.
the city is
So this-
absolved of all that. And,
Okay, I was wondering, so this won't be a city function, then it'll be a board function.
yeah, or it could just be, a couple of friends flying people around. I mean, we've got like 5 people that I'm staring at right now that got airplanes and pilot experience that
Yeah.
may want to step up and provide flights. And
Yeah,
I'm happy to go out and do the recruiting
Okay.
and then
Yeah,
coordinate that with Sue.
Yeah, this is Ron, and I participated in those many times in the past. I think it's a really good project. One thing we do need to make sure that whoever's organizing that with the chamber or with Leadership Lawrence is we need to talk about COVID protocols for that. The kind of airplanes we're using are pretty small, and you can't socially distance, and so that we have to make sure we've got proper protocols to set up for that, and that whoever's going to coordinate that with the chamber, we need to make sure we do that, because that could affect who you may get as pilots, who you may get as passengers, all of that sort of thing. So just a different consideration in our current wonderful COVID times.
Yes, yes.
Greatly appreciate that, Ron. So Rick, do I hear you volunteering to help coordinate and interact with Sue?
I am happy to do that, yes.
Okay.
Lance and Maloney board member. Rick, is there a possibility that you're going to require vaccination on this for anybody who participates? I think you should.
Well,
especially, I mean, if I can do it, I might, but I'm not going to get in an airplane with anybody who isn't vaccinated, period, the end.
Well, that's a great question. I'll be happy to talk to Sue about it and see what level of, participation with vaccines that they have. And, we could always make them wing walk if they're not vaccinated. And, if they fall off, then, that's okay too. But I'll talk to her and express those concerns, and then we can go from there. And maybe the conglomerate of her leadership class are not vaccinated, and it's not a good thing for our volunteer pilots to participate in. Fair is fair.
Well, I'm not trying to make light of this, but there are some of us who may have other considerations about who we put in our airplanes. That's all.
Well, I completely agree. And you were one of the first ones that came to mind when you said who we stick in our airplane. And so, and I understand you're not making light of it. It's a serious deal. And, nobody wants to be exposed. Last night, just a personal experience. Last night, I was in the T-Mobile Center with 16,000 people watching Elton John. And I felt like I was in a minority because I had a mask on. And so, I don't know how you control this thing, but we can talk about that and see what works out best for everybody. So it's a win-win deal.
Yeah, I'll go back to that and I'll kind of second Clancy's statement. Anybody that flies in my airplane has to be vaccinated and masked. That's just the way it goes. And the airlines need you to be masked, but they haven't yet done vaccinations, and that may happen yet.
Well, as I said, I'll talk to Sue and we'll see what works out best. And at the bare minimum, everybody will be masked. I don't know what level of vaccination her group has. We'll just go from there. And the ones that are vaccinated, maybe, hate to segregate people, but if they're vaccinated, we'll say they get to fly. If they're not vaccinated, sorry, next trip when COVID's long gone and cloud of dust behind us. So anyway, that's why I wanted to bring it before the board tonight for this discussion.
Sounds great. Well, count me in, Rick. I'll be a pilot that day for you.
All righty. Thank you, Richard.
You're welcome. Okay. If there's no further business, take a motion to adjourn.
Nancy Maloney, board member, I so move.
David Hebb, board member, second.
And moved and seconded by David Heeb, and I don't think we need to take a vote on that. The meeting's adjourned. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks.